Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Simply Colorful FiberCast. Today's date is September 9th, 2016. My name is Lynn, and I'm your host. Welcome. We have a really fun show planned. I've been looking forward to it all night, I have to tell you. And we have a lot to cover. Most importantly is clue number 2 of our Brown Bag Mystery Quilt that we started last week. And I have a list of things that we are going to cover today in 60 minutes because we're all working on this together and it's going to be amazing what we can get done together in 60 minutes. So what I wanted to do was go over the mystery clue 2. I have some tips. Sarah has written in with some tips already. Lee, our newest patron, has asked a question as well. We'll go over that. We're also going to take a look at what happened on this day in history. Very interesting. A baby was born in the White House. I'll tell you who as we get through this. We're going to talk a little bit about a yarn crawl, and I'll tell you more about that in New York City. Wanted to welcome our newest patrons from as far away as the Netherlands, Sieta, I hope I said that right, and Leah from California, so welcome. We also have 6 bags left, so if you have not yet gotten your mystery quilt fabric, make sure to sign up and I'll send you your bag. Everyone should have their fabric by now, with some possible exceptions of those of you far away and Sieta and Leah, but all of them have gone out. The t-shirts, on the other hand, we are back ordered, but you will be getting your t-shirts shortly. So welcome. And let's see. Finally, the mystery fabric. By the end of this show, at the end of this show, after we have mastered clue 2, I'm going to show you what is in that brown paper bag, so that for those of you who don't get the brown bag, you can go out and buy it, because next week we're going to be cutting it up. So with that as a little teaser, let's get into clue 2. I'm so glad you're joining me, and I'm so glad, well, I think, or I hope by now you've seen that this is a doozy, and we've only just begun. Clue 2, before I even began clue 2, first off, pull out your swatch sheet, because clue 2 requires us to use 5 colors from our swatch sheet. And basically, we're going to make 32 squares, and they are ultimately going to look like this. It's called an economy block in EQ, and it does not measure square. So it's going to end up 5 by 5.3. And the only difference is you're going to make 16 of them with one color in the corner, your A color, and then we're also going to make 16 of them with the brown. And you can see those up behind me. So I'll put that right there. And it's paper piecing, so it's really fun. What I thought we'd do is we'll go through one first, and then I'm actually going to do flag piecing for a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to get into more of a mass production. A couple of things before we get started, just in terms of the colors and the letters. And I apologize for the confusion of the letters. We have a couple of A's, B's, and C's going on. Basically, your paper piece pattern here that's on the website and it's on the mystery quilt along has instructions for putting your pieces on each of these 3 parts. So for example, on the A, and I showed this in the instructions, it has A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7. All that is it's telling us to place the first piece right there. A1 would be our first piece. Then we place A2, and we put that on, and so on. So this A1 through A7 is just the chronology of how we put our pieces together on that. Similarly, B1 through B5 shows us start with B1, go B2, B3, B4, B5. It turns out Sarah has suggested an alteration of those letters, and we'll get to that in a minute. It does make sense, actually, to start, it makes a cleaner piece to put to here, is if we start B3 actually becomes B1, and we work out on both sides. But forget I said that for now. Basically, your A's, your B's, and your C's on this paper piece pattern has to do with the chronology of putting your pieces on. That's separate from the 5 letters of fabrics that identify which swatches you're going to use. And more specifically, the only thing different that's changing here, and this gets to Leah's question, is even though it says B5 here in this corner, and B1 and C1 and C5, that has to do with the order of placement, but really your colors are going to be A, in my case yellow, or I, in my case brown. Does that make sense? So if you go, this is your paper piece. That just has to do with the chronology of how you put your pieces on. If you go to page 2, and Leah, I think you even said this, if you looked more closely at the directions, it would spell it out. And I hope it does. But on page 2 and page 3, it literally shows you to use fabric A in each corner. And then fabric M in the middle, fabric D for the diamonds, etc. Same thing on the next page, page 3. The only difference is in your corner, you're going to use fabric I. So I hope that helps clear up the 2 sets of letters. But let's jump right in. I don't know about you, but I learn by watching and doing, and it feels so good to do. Last week I thoroughly enjoyed FiberCast, but we didn't make much, did we? And I have just been so looking forward to this. Of course, I'm chomping at the bit with each of these clues to show you, because I cannot wait for the reveal. But we're a long way from that, because as we know, this is a doozy. Okay, so I'm going to start with my A, my big one. And for me, so let's talk about cutting before we start. So I printed out my paper piece, my pattern, and I cut it into 3. So I put those aside. Then for my fabric A, which for me is I went to my swatch, and I saw fabric A is my yellow. I literally have cut out 64 2x2 squares. And they don't have to be exact because, again, we're going to use them on our paper piece and we're going to trim it up. Then I cut 120 of my fabric D's, 3.5 by 2 inches. So that's that. For my fabric H, which end up being, my fabric H ends up being these in the background, right? All these triangles. And for paper piecing, what you do is you cut squares that are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and then you cut them on the diagonal. So you end up with, how many of these? 128. Oh no, 256 triangles. On clue 1. Sorry. Okay, so then fabric I, for me, is the brown, and I cut out another 64 2x2 inches. This is all on your front page of clue 2. And then finally, and this is the most fun because it's the biggest piece, I had to cut out 32 of these because we're making 32 squares, remember, 3.5 by 3.5 inches. So there are my pieces, right? So they're all cut out. They're ready to rock and roll. And then literally what I do is now I go to my A, this piece. And I have a light right up here so I can see through the paper. And it's just paper piecing like we have learned to do over the years. Can you believe we're in our 3rd year? I can't. Actually, I can. It's really fun. So I hold it up, and I can see this side. I can see my paper piece. And I can see that this is covering A1. Then my D, right, my 3.5 inch by 2 inch, I go and I put it on top there. And on the other side, I see the line that I have to sew. I literally have my sewing machine set on 1.6. So really small stitches. My trusty Bernina, I am loving her. She's performing beautifully. And I still have a creaky chair. that hasn't gone away. For those of you who are back, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I missed you. We missed you. So I trim that up to make sure it's just 1/4 of an inch, and then I finger press it, and there's our first piece. And on the back, can you see that? So now I'm just going to go down here, and I'm going to put a second dark blue, and keep it all as flat as I can, right? Turn it over. You'll see I have my iron right here. There's that. So this one, I have a fair amount of extra. See how I just folded that over? And then we've talked about this before. You could use your rotary cutter and a 1/4 inch seam that has a lip for paper piecing, and you could put it down and literally zip it across, and it would be more precise, but that's what I have so far, right? Now, I literally am going to use 4 of these triangles. And I literally place it on like that, making sure that on the back side I can see where my seam is, and it's going to capture it. And that's all there is to it. And I tell you, paper piecing, once you get the hang of it, and I know at first it can feel really awkward and backwards, but it's so like this. I love the precision. It makes you feel like you can sew any square. Ooh, bugs. It's hot here in New England. So there that is. Now what I do is I put this back. Oh, someone's out there. Ooh, can you hear the band? The band says hi. I thanked them for playing Long Tall Woman in a Black Dress. I asked them to play it again, and they said, well, they had to practice it, so we'll see. Okay, so now I'm putting the other one on. And you just kind of line it up, and like I say, you get into a groove. I again fold it over. I end up with just a mess on the floor, by the way. But it's so easy with a Swiffer. I just go with my Swiffer after it's all done. It's very easy. So there's that. Ooh. And I will get to your questions in just a minute. So there's those 2, and then we're going to do 2 more. Ooh, we can hear the band. So tomorrow morning, Karen and I are going to crack this code. We're going to figure out how to record our bonus content. So stay tuned for that. I may have to pick her up scrape her up off the sidewalk. She sent me a note about an hour ago, because you know she has a new job, I think I've mentioned, and it's taking a lot of her time, as it should. And so she hadn't looked at this week's clue until a couple of hours ago, and she sent me a text that said, "Oh, glory be," or something like that. So I may have to walk her through it tomorrow. If you're out there, KB, you can do it. My biggest fear in this whole thing is that these PDF patterns somehow become distorted. So make sure when I say that your block should measure 5 by 5.3, do one and then go and make sure that it's pretty darn close to that. Sometimes I've had this problem before when I've done paper piecing and my printer has been set to fit to page or scale to page, and then what I'm printing out gets distorted slightly, and that makes for a mess. So that's my biggest concern with this quilt right now, because it is a doozy, and there are squares that literally aren't square, they're rectangles. Okay, so there's that, and I just gave it a nice press, and it's ready to trim up. Now I'm going to go do B and C. Whoops. So they're going to go like that, right? Now, remember I mentioned Sarah's tip. Here's the tip. Right now, the chronology, or the way that this is suggesting we put our fabric on, is to start here at the top and go B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. What we've discovered for ease of piecing the three together is we're going to make this B1, keep that B2, change this to B3, make this B4 and B5. I think, Sarah, that was your recommendation. So we start in the middle, put these two triangles on, and then put the two ends. And what happens is it makes this easier to join to here. So let's do that. So again, for me, it's dark blue. Put that on the back here. And then I use my tan. Okay. If this were my son or my daughter downstairs playing music, I'd probably go down and tell them to be quiet. Or not be quiet, but turn it down. They love their amps. And they were so happy tonight. Okay, so there's that. So I'll do this one, and then I want to see who's out there. Send us pictures of, if you're working on the mystery, great, send a picture of that. Send any questions you might have about the clue. Post your colors on the Facebook page that is the Simply Colorful Mystery Quilt Along. Join Patreon. See some bonus content. Get your mystery fabric if you haven't. Like I say, I have 6 bags left. So you just keep doing this, and like I say, I'm going to get into a rhythm here, and I'm going to do this. Let's do browns. I'm going to do chain piecing. So I literally just keep going like this. By chain piecing, we'll save a lot of thread too. But I wanted to show you what each of these looked like individually. And you'll see I keep trimming it off to 1/4 of an inch. And then I finger press it. Doesn't look very fancy at first. But I am liking this sequencing. So thank you, Sarah, for that tip. You'll notice I'm using regular copier paper. I don't even have my foundation paper yet. It's upstairs in the attic. And I looked really quickly and I couldn't find it. So this works just fine too. And I had printer problems this week. My goodness, what a week I've had. Including my printer broke, so I had to buy a new printer. And then I had computer problems. So here are 2 pieces. And see how the contrast between this one, which is H, and I, really makes the I pop, right? Because it's very light and dark. So that gets to our values that we're talking about. But before I go, let me see who's out there before I keep going. I'm all ready. This is funny. Oh, Chris, hi. Chris says, hello, it's Friday, and she's sharing her emojis. I love it. Woohoo! It's Friday. Amen, sister. What a week. I work for Dell now. Do you believe it? In fact, I'm feeling a little nostalgic. Uh-huh. Where is your Dell shirt? Touche. I was just going to mention that. I'm feeling a little nostalgic. EMC, 20 years of EMC, and now we're Dell. But now I can talk about it. So this has been going on for a long time, and the acquisition happened. They signed on the dotted line on the 7th, so 2 days ago. And now we are merging billion-dollar companies together and CGIF. You're very funny. I will get a Dell shirt. And if anyone out there works for Dell, let me know. Contact me and give me some tips. It's like it's starting a whole new job. Okay, Sarah says, and Sarah's the one who gave me the tip, and I hope I did that right. She says, joining you live tonight. Hello. Loving the mystery so far. P.S. Are you in mourning for EMC? You are wearing their shirt tonight. You're all very astute. I'm nostalgic. Not really mourning. In fact, if anything, I'm a little relieved. There were a lot of logo changes. There were a lot of headers and footer changes and a lot of training. I mean, I've learned more about Dell PowerEdge servers than I ever thought I would in the last 24 hours. So it's all good. And financing. And they have lined up a whole series of training that we have to take. So at least it's very prescriptive. I know what I have to do next. But that's very funny. It is going to be a collector's item, I figure. Okay, so, but here's the kicker. Sarah says, do you have a number of block requirements for smaller size quilts? Are you asking me if you can make this in a smaller size? The answer, I've gotten that question from, I think, Allie, who is traveling and doing this in her caravan, which I love. So keep sending pictures, Allie. In Australia, by the way. The answer is, I don't have a quilt to make this smaller. What I can recommend is, and we're rolling out the clues to support this, is if you get to a point, because this really is a doozy of a quilt, if you get to a point, say halfway through, and you decide this is just too much, I've bitten off too much, you can stop and make it a lap or a wall hanging size. If you want to continue for the rest, it will get to be 96 by 96 inches. So that's my answer. I really don't want to go, believe it or not, these are not your smallest pieces. So I just gave you another clue. So this really is a doozy of a quilt. So I hope that answered your question. If not, write to me again. I'm here. I'm psyched you're there. Jean! Oh my gosh! I love this, you guys. Jean, #1, she says, love your shirt. Is it a collector's item? You're so cute. Yes, it is. I have a couple of them. Okay, you are rocking this quilt. Thank you. Oh boy. Jean says she went to Brimfield today. For anyone out there who might not be familiar, Brimfield is near Sturbridge. It's here in middle of Massachusetts, and they have the antique show, biggest flea market antiques on the East Coast. Maybe I could be exaggerating, but they're big. And in September they have one, and she says she hit the jackpot with a 30s quilt. Oh, I can't wait to see that. Send us a picture. And then Jean says, so did I mention that Jean sent this in? She says, I'm still working on the 30th quilt, but hoping to finish this weekend. And she says, see you Sunday. See you Sunday. We're going to Taunton Farm, T-O-T, Taunton Farm. Oh, I bet I've got it wrong. T-O-M-T-E-N Farm, where they rescue animals that are going to be slaughtered, right? So thank you, Jean, for writing in. Now, I just saw a message come in. Oh, it was from Chris. And she says, stop saying Jean, seriously. That's very funny. Let me go. So the peanut gallery's there. I love that you're there. I wanted to say hi to all of you, by the way. To Deb, to Carol. Carol, I can't wait to see your chevron quilt. I hear the colors, the green especially, is beautiful. And I'll shout out to more of you in a minute. Let's go check our mail. And then, hey, Carol Bell. Hi. She says, here's what I'm working on. I hope you and the FiberCasters have had a good week. Just this morning, I received my mystery brown bag in the post. Phew! So it made it to the UK. Good. So that hopefully means that Wendy and Crystal and those of you also outside of the country have received yours. Carol says, I'm still working on quilting the Irish chain quilt that I was just getting ready to start last week. I've done half of it, although I did not get started quilting on it Saturday as I was hoping to, as I got an offer I could not refuse. Some help. Oh, nice. So together with my daughter, I got a full-size quilt layered. It's currently sitting in a bag on top of my wardrobe waiting for me to quilt it. Oh, isn't that good? Oh, very nice. You've made progress even since last week. And then the backing. What are those on their backing? Are they clowns? Very whimsical. Very nice. Carol, thanks for letting me know you've got your fabric. Now it's interesting, for those of you who have not yet seen the fabric, and again I'm going to show you the fabric at the end of this show. I know it's not the most exciting. In fact, it may have been anticlimactic when you opened it, but sit tight and imagine how that's going to work in a quilt. Wendy, so maybe she did get her bag. Okay, she says, hello, Lynn and Karen and everyone. I'm not going to see this live, sadly, but we are off to a caravan show in a nearby city, so I will watch tonight. Wonderful. She says, Crystal and I haven't received our brown paper bags yet, but we will catch up through the week. Oh, they left at the same time that Carol's did, right after you signed up. So, and I do have the tracking number, so I'd say in a couple of days, if it doesn't arrive, we'll track it down. She says, have fun anyway, and I can't wait to start. I'm very curious. Oh, that's good. She says, Allie from Australia and I are now Facebook friends thanks to you. Stop it. That is the best news ever. I'm so glad. I have had some kind of flu, so haven't been sewing. Oh, no. That doesn't make me happy. Have a great weekend, says Wendy. Oh, my. Well, I'm glad you connected with Allie. Drink lots of fluids. I'm not kidding. Even though you're traveling, drink lots of fluids, get rest, you know, all that stuff they say with the flu. It really makes a difference. You don't want to get dehydrated. I love this. You know, I get all these. FiberCast is such a blast, you guys. Okay, Sarah says, yes, you got the tip correct. Awesome. Hey, Cassie. Sandy, I'm sorry. I still call you Cassie for Cassandra. It's a long story. But hi, Sandy. Welcome. She says, happy Friday. I'm late, but at least I made it. Amen, I say. She says, this is a scarf I'm crocheting for my daughter, Christy. The pattern is a closed shell. The yarn, which is at least 22% wool, is Scarfy Cream Taupe by Lion Brand. I was having trouble remembering how the pattern went on the Tito repeat, so finally did it my way. It worked. I sent this to my sister, but it went to my daughter. Oh no! I knew that would happen one day. Oh, that's funny. And especially when it's a gift. That's sort of, you know, the golden rule that Mom, if you're out there, hi, always taught when we were doing our diaries is really be careful when you write things down. But we all know that. So, and writing bad things, it's such a short-lived relief of feeling. It doesn't do, anyway. Tap to download. Why don't I stick to quilting? Okay. I'm not sure I got that word right. Tito repeat? T-E-O-T-O-W repeat. That could be spell check playing a trick on us. Oh, I love that. Look at this, everyone. Isn't that nice? I like that texture. And Lion Brand really does make some good, nice, soft things, doesn't it? Ooh, it's like a scallop. So speaking of yarn, now's a good time to share with you what my mother sent, which is, have you all seen Pearl Soho? It is a shop in New York City, but they're also online. Chris, you may have seen it. I know Chris really likes knitting. But my mother sent this to me. In New York City, Pearl Soho is having a yarn crawl, September 23rd through the 25th. And I went and I looked to their site, and you can look it up. Let's see, it's just pearlsoho.com. It's a self-guided tour of New York City's finest yarn shops. The yarn crawl is a great time to explore the city, to discover its vibrant knitting community, and of course to get inspired by tons of fabulous yarn. And they show some pictures, and then they show pictures of their luscious yarn, which is the silks and the linens and the merinos, and they mix it all up, and they've got just these palettes that are just so contemporary and in fact, this was, I think, in my feed this morning, Mom. Wasn't speaking of patterns in your knitting. They call it a fluffy brioche hat. It looks like a seed stitch, and it's made in that yarn, Cashmere Merino Bloom. It's our most sumptuous yarn yet, they say. So, thanks for sending that tip along, Mom. And I wanted to share that for anyone who happens to be in New York City, or just look here online. It's kind of fun to look. It's eye candy. So, let me get back to finishing this up because I want to show how we put them all together, and then I'll go back to your mails. This is sort of the one half of the paper piecing. The other, I love sewing the three. I love trimming them up and sewing the three together, and then opening it up and ironing it. And then what I've been doing is I take the piles with me at night when I'm watching TV, and I peel off the paper backing. I don't keep the paper backing on beyond this. I don't want the quilt to be all done and then have paper piece on the back. At that level, I'm taking it off. It's not like I'm distorting it. It's not huge pieces. I think I'll be fine at that point to just do my regular seams. Okay, so similarly, I'm starting Leah, instead of starting up at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm again going to do C1 in the middle, C2, C3, C4, C5. Okay? So literally, I'm going to put my D fabric there, and this across. I'm using my Aurifil thread that I received. Chris, you may remember this, and Jean, you may remember this, and Kelsey and Karen, and Beth Allen. Hello, Beth Allen. When we went out to Missouri Star Quilt Company for that retreat. It's coming up on a year, believe it, I think. No, it was last winter. Chris is going out there soon. They gave us each a spool of Aurifil thread. We came down in the morning. Boy, I love this retreat center. You sleep upstairs. It's an old, what looks like a mill building in the center of Hamilton, downtown Hamilton. They've redone into the retreat center. Big windows, big ceilings on the first floor. That's where you sew all day. And that's where you eat. They have a kitchen there. Then you go upstairs, and they have rooms that they've made into bunk areas where literally there can be a couple of twin beds in each room. I think, what did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 beds in our room. Anyway, we were there for a few nights, and what they would do is every morning when you'd come down, first off, you could smell the coffee, right? And you'd come down, and there at each of our machine would be a treat or something that they were giving us. And one day it was this Aurifil thread. And I love my Aurifil thread. This one happens to be a light pink, but it acts really like a gray. I could use it for anything. It's very light. So I keep finger pressing over and doing our brown. I dropped off my quilts for the quilt show, the Marathon Quilters. For anyone who's here in Massachusetts, we have over 100 quilts in this show that is going to be hung, I think, next Wednesday. And then doors open, oh, I hope I get this right, Saturday? It might be Friday night. I guess I better check that out. Anyway, KB, I dropped off our two color Delight quilts. Your pink one, my red one. Joyce is dropping off her black one. So we'll have 3 of them. People can see the same design in different colorways. So it'll be fun. We have poly arts up in the center of town also that weekend. So there's that. I'm literally going to try and press it. Whew. I'm going to press this one as well. I have little flies in here. I don't know how they're getting in. Okay, so I have these 3 pieces that are pressed. Then literally what I do is move that all over. I've been liking this really little rotary cutter. I think probably because it has a fresh blade. And I've been loving this rotating mat that my sister gave me. And I literally hold it down and then trim. Did I mention this mystery is a doozy? But you know what? Well, let's just keep motoring away. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a prize for people who finish different parts of it. That might be fun. That might keep us going. Because this is going to be a doozy. I need another word for doozy. Okay, so I keep doing that. Oh, I have to share with you what happened on this day in history. A lot happened, you know. It's so interesting to me. Even as adults, don't we go back to school in a way? All our kids go back to school. A lot gets accomplished in September, even when we're adults. Okay, there's the second one. 2. We'll do this one more. There. It might get up to 90 degrees here tomorrow. Oh, and last week, I don't think I told everyone, we had such a nice time. We had Bob's father over for dinner, and then we had a fire pit out back with our neighbors last Saturday night. It was good. The only thing I was concerned with is because we've had such a drought, there were some pine needles, pine boughs that man, did those go up fast. Okay, so there, and there. Now, here's my big tip, or one of my big tips. In order to get these to go right, and some work better than others, I take my pin and I put it in the corner where the blue meets my tan and my brown. And I put the pin right there. Then I put the pin right at the corner of the tan and the blue and my middle. And I put it straight down so that the fabric is going straight down. And then I take another pin and I just catch them all together. So I haven't distorted the up and down. Then I do the same thing over here. I go right in the corner. And if anyone else has other tricks, let me know. And then I line that up. And same thing, I hold it flat as I can, and then I go and use another pin And now we're pretty good in terms of being lined up. That's about what I do. Then I go over here, and I keep my pin standing up and down. And at first I found on these I really have to sew right on the line. I don't sew to one side or the other, or I try not to. And then we get to a really fun part. So there's that. And then the reveal. And hopefully this is when you say a little prayer. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to do the other one. And that's all there is to it. There. There. Okay. So same thing. I've lined them up, the points, and then I just take a little bit all the way through all the layers. And there we go. So, if this was our first one, we'd have 31 more to do. There we go. And you'll see it's a little bit longer than it is wide. Okay, so this literally I probably, yeah. I want 16 of these and 16 of these, and then you will be able to call this clue done. Okay, so let's go see who else is out there, and then I want to talk about what happened on this day in history. In fact, I have this day in history pulled up. Let's go there first. In 1893, September 9th, 1893, Frances Folsom Cleveland, the wife of President Grover Cleveland, gave birth to a daughter, Esther, in the White House. Isn't that fun? In fact, here's a picture. She was the youngest First Lady. Grover Cleveland actually ended up marrying her. She was a daughter of one of his friends. He was 49 when he married her. She was 21. And she became the youngest First Lady in U.S. history. Believe it or not, in 1776 on this day, September 9th, Congress renamed the United States of America. Renamed the nation that. They were using the term United Colonies up until then. But back in 1776, on September 9th, they turned it into the United States of America. In 1966, so coming closer to us, President Lyndon Johnson signed the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act into law. Immediately afterwards, he also signed the Highway Safety Act. The two bills made the federal government responsible for setting and enforcing safety standards for cars and roads. My goodness, if he knew that we were talking about self-driving cars, I wonder what he would think. self-driving trucks. Uber, I just saw an article yesterday, Uber in San Francisco, where they're headquartered, had an Audi. I think they had an Audi outfitted. They did have a driver in it, but they were mapping the route in downtown San Francisco with driverless technology for their trucks. Johnson, back in, again, 1966, his quote was, "Unsafe highways were a menace to public health," he said. "In this century," before he signed the bills, "more than 1.5 million of our fellow citizens have died on our streets and highways, nearly 3 times as many Americans as we have lost in all of our wars." He said it was a genuine crisis and one that the automakers had proven themselves unwilling or unable to resolve. "Safety is no luxury item," he said. "No optional extra. It must be a normal cost of doing business." And it goes on. Let's see. What else happened on this day? And then I'll get to your emails. Let's see. Mao Zedong died in 1976 on this day. Back in 1919, the Boston Police Department went on strike. Criminals actually looted the city. And actually, this also has implications for today. Today, with all the body cameras here in Boston, they're testing body cameras. Let's see. Let's go one more. There was a riot at Attica Prison in 1971. So this all comes from the History Channel. This day in history, September 9th. So let's make our own history. Let's go see who's out there. Oh, Chris, how are you? You're so funny. Hey, Allie's out there. Allie, I heard you made a new friend. Oh, so Allie says, "Hi, Lynn, the clue finally downloaded, but it has no instructions of fabrics to use or number of blocks to make, just the paper-pieced pattern. I'm confused." She says, "I downloaded the clue twice, but it was the same." Okay, so Allie, I will go check. There are 2 files, and I'm not sure if you're downloading it from the Simply Colorful Facebook Quilt-Along page or from simplycolorful.com, but I'll go check both. Look for 2 different files. One's the paper piecing file, and the other one tells you the cutting instructions. So right after we're done here, I'll go check and make sure. And since I have your email, I'll send you the clue. So it should look like that. Sorry about that. That's really frustrating. Oh, and here Allie says, "Hi from Australia. I'm watching and waiting for my old computer to bring up the next clue so I can get started." Okay, so the question is, do these blocks need to be paper pieced? Can I just cut the pieces and sew even though the squares are not square? Yes, definitely. I was thinking the paper piecing was for small pieces, LOL. Oh, that's right, because you like to have everything, don't you? That's right, so these are big pieces in your book. Absolutely. In fact, why don't I post the sizes of all the squares? Does that help you? I'll do that. So I'll post it up. Anyway, she says, "I'll be sewing most of the weekend and will post what I made on the Mystery Blog Facebook page." She says, "I also started a baby quilt for friends who are expecting their first in December." Oh, that's fun. That's exciting. She says, "We've finished our caravanning for a month or so. We'll be leaving next Saturday and going on a cruise from Hawaii to Sydney." My goodness, you do get around. "I just love the last-minute fares. We got a really good bargain." That is great. So you're going from Hawaii to Sydney. "Love your show and your blogs. Love, Allison. P.S. I'm now Facebook friends with Wendy in Australia from last week's show." I love that. That made my night. All right, so I'll make sure you have the clue 2, and I'll get you the dimensions if you don't want a paper piece. Absolutely. Just be forewarned. I hope they're not 1/8 of an inch piecing, but I'll send them to you. And I'm glad you're there. Thank you. Oh, Marquet. Hi, Marquet. She says, "Happy Friday night from Indiana." with Abby. Oh, neat. She says, I'm happy Friday night to FiberCast, to you and the gang. Tonight I'll be watching from Indiana with my granddaughter, Abby. Hi, Abby. Could you please say hi and wave to her? Thank you. Of course. She says, I was so excited to see Clue 2 this morning. I checked it early this morning, and I was wishing I could jump right into it, but we were packing to leave, and so I'll have to hit it hard when I get home. That sounds like a plan. Something to look forward to, even though I bet you're having a ball. I've enjoyed looking at everyone's colors, and I'm happy for the ones that have already started cutting and sewing. Happy sewing, your friend Mark K. Aww. Have a blast. Hi, Abby. Hi to everyone in the family. And I'm so glad you're out there. Lee, again, thank you. Leah, L-E-A-H is how I say it. Welcome to Patreon. I really appreciate it. I cannot believe the support we're getting from Patreon. Thank you to all of you. In fact, shout out to Rosemary, to Sheila, to Rachel, to Crystal, to Linda, to Agnes, to Evelyn, to Karen, to Betty, to Sherry, to Carolyn, Stephanie, Patricia, Vicky, Peggy, Sue, Allie, Carol, Carolyn, Denise, Chris, Kelsey, Jean and Chris, Chris and Jean, Karen, KB, you're all wonderful. Thank you. So, do we have time for another block? We might not. Let's make sure we've gotten everyone here. We've said hi and answered any questions. Again, if you have any questions, post them, send them. I think we're good. I think we're really good. So maybe I do have a little more time. Let me make sure that we've talked about everything. Okay. So let me start one more, and then in our last minute or two, I'm going to show you the mystery fabric. And I also wanted to give everyone a heads up on, now that looks different. See, this is my big fear. Don't do as I did. Print them all out at the same time, all the same size. So there are some other supplies that we're going to need next week. We're going to need a printer again, and we're going to need 86 safety pins, small safety pins. We're also, I'd like, for those of you who can, if you're near a store or you have it, it's not mandatory, but it will make your life easier if you get a self-adhesive laminating sheet. 2 of them, actually, and Avery does this. We're going to need 2 of them next week, and we're actually going to insert templates in the middle, laminate them, cut them out, and use them. So for anyone who might be near a paper store or has this on hand, self-adhesive laminating sheets and pins. I have them right here. Smaller the better. Okay? So we're definitely going to need that. I wanted to remind everyone or give you a heads up of that. That will all be in Clue 3, but I thought if you're out and about, I might as well tell you now. And hopefully that would help. Colleen, if you're out there, you made me laugh when you asked for a preview of the fabric on Facebook. And I was very happy to oblige. Okay. So this is, oh, I know. I was going to show you my production method. So literally, I have printed out all of my patterns. Now that we've gone through and we know what we're doing, I literally cut many of them out, and then I do it in batches. And it's not like it saves me any time per se, I don't think, but psychologically, it makes it harder for me to walk away after doing just one block. If that makes any sense at all. So now I have many going on, right? And now I literally will take another one. And I've got them all cut, so it's very easy. I know where they go. I've learned it. And this is where you put on a podcast, you put on Netflix. And you just go to town, right? And it doesn't feel like you have to make 32 squares, one square at a time. So with that, it's time to reveal. Let me do one more here. It's time to reveal our mystery fabric. So for those of you who, again, I have 6 bags left. Go to patreon.com/simplycolorful if you want me to send you one for, what is it, $2? Start $2 a month, a subscription, and I'll send you that. Or you can also go and buy your piece of mystery fabric. It's Hoffman. It's from 2016, and it's called Supernova. It's actually more than a yard. It's like 45 inches long. And get a pencil. And actually, I think it was at the end of our clue, wasn't it? It's Supernova, Hoffman's Jean Summerall Yerho print. P4287. So this is going to be used in our mystery quilt. I am so glad you all could join me. So glad. What a fun time. And it really helped. Knowing that we had FiberCast here this Friday helped me get through quite a week, a historic week. No more EMC. I'm now part of Dell. I'm thrilled to do that. But anyway, that's not the point of this FiberCast at all. It's just sharing with you what I do during the day. And thanks for participating. Thanks for playing. Watch for the clue next week. Enjoy sewing. Send me questions. And let's see. I think that's it. I don't know if I can stand being away from you for a whole week. Karen, we have to figure out that bonus content. Okay. Bye for now, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.